Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine Hirsch. I'm at the Eclipse Foundation in Ottawa, Canada. I'm here today with Gorkem and Ilya. They will be doing a presentation with us on Eclipse Neon, specifically discussing the JavaScript development tools that are sort of affecting the Eclipse Neon release, which comes out on June 22nd. The session will be 30 to 45 minutes. We will allocate about 5 minutes at the end of the session for questions. I'd like to now sort of quickly give you a bit of information about Ilya. He is a senior software engineer at Red Hat. He also specializes in Eclipse plugin development. And Gorkem is a principal software engineer at Red Hat. He's also the creator of Time, and he is a Jsdt committer. So without further ado, I will turn the presentation over to them. If you have questions, please submit them to our Google Hangout. You can comment on YouTube, or you can tweet at us on Twitter with hashtag Eclipse Neon, and we'll respond at the end of the session. Over to you guys.
So hello everyone. So I hope that you see my screen now. And today we are going to talk about Jsdt 2.0. Basically, there has been no news for quite a while from JavaScript Development Tools project, and actually it was in a deep support phase for quite a while. But the situation has changed dramatically, and now Red Hat, together with IBM and several other contributors, are working on making JavaScript development tools better in Eclipse. And in this webinar, we are going to show you what was implemented as part of Jsdt 2.0, which is now available in Neon release. Also, we'll show you some demo and outline our plans for future. But first of all, I would like to talk about JavaScript in general and why it's important. And why it's important for Eclipse in particular. And actually, there was a Stack Overflow developer survey, which is held on a yearly basis. And this year, more than 50,000 developers shared where they work, what they built, and who they are. And actually, one of their main things that was outlined from this research was that JavaScript is the most commonly used programming language on Earth, and even backend developers are more likely to use it than any other language. So basically, it means several things. That now situation with their web technologies changed, and today the most popular developer is full stack developer. Is basically a guy who is good at both front end and back end things. And one more thing, that this guy really needs an IDE which support both. And at this point, it's very important for Eclipse to support JavaScript and have decent support of JavaScript. And we are glad to introduce what was implemented and what is new and noteworthy for Neon release as part of Jsdt 2.0. So first thing that was changed is now in your Jsdt editor you can have full ECMAScript 2015 support. So you will have class declaration parsed correctly, and let, const, arrow functions, everything will be available there. So basically we have changed the parser to Esprima, and it was mentioning what was before the Neon release. So before Neon, there was an outdated parser that was actually forked from JDT Java parser, and it has support only of ECMAScript 3, which was basically introduced in late 1999. The parser was supported only by Jsdt committers, so there was no community, and it was quite memory hungry, so there were a few performance issues there. At this point, it was unusable due to the fact that when the ECMAScript 2015 was introduced roughly a year ago, there were a lot of false errors because of the fact that the parser wasn't able to parse it correctly. And a new parser was introduced in Jsdt. So basically, it's a Prima parser. It's a JavaScript parser with full ECMAScript 2015 support. It's supported by community. Actually, it's part of jQuery Foundation. It supports tolerant parsing. Is a mode of parsing where during the parsing, the parser will not fail on the first error, but rather will try to parse till the end of the file and give you the collection of errors. So it's very important to have the full errors in your editor. And due to the fact that as Prima is written on JavaScript, the Nash horn, which is part of Java 8, Nashorn is a JavaScript engine written in Java, is used for running as Prima in Jsdt. One more thing is we have added Node.js support, so it was implemented from scratch. And basically, for Node.js, we have a simple user stories that we would like to support in Jsdt 2.0. So it's have an editor with ECMAScript 2015 support, run Node.js apps, and debug Node.js apps. And all of this were implemented in Neon. So the main features are, now there is a Node.js runtime definition. So by default, tools will try to define what node binaries will be used for development, but you could also specify your own. It's very similar to specifying JDK. Now there is a launch and debug configuration for running Node.js application and V8 debugger support. Actually, V8 debugger deserves a separate slide because there is some story behind, and a brief history about V8 is basically there were some tools, there are Chrome Dev tools for Java, which were originally developed by Google. It's Eclipse plugins that can be used for debugging Node.js application. But the problem was that these plugins were under BSD license, which is not compatible with EPL. So we asked Google if it is possible to change the license from BSD to EPL, and they agreed. So we have opened a contribution questionnaire and all sources pass Eclipse IP process, and now all bundles of features were refactored and adjusted to Jsdt. And now you can debug your application, your Node.js application directly from Jsdt editor. So, and main features of Node.js tools and Node.js debugging is adding and removing breakpoint, hovering over JavaScript variables and literals. So you can see all the properties in variable view or while hovering. Step into, step over functionality, and live editing hot swapping. So while debugging, if you want to change source code, there is no need to restart the application. You can do it directly in your editor. Also, JSON editor was introduced. It's actually originally developed by Angelo Zer, and he contributed JSON to JSDT. So also now there is a package manager support, Bower and NPM, and JavaScript build system, task runners, grunt, and gulp. And the last but not least thing, that JavaScript EPP was created. So now there is an Eclipse IDE for JavaScript and web developers. So it contains everything you need for JavaScript development, for Node.js development. It will contain Bower, NPM, and all the tools that were described earlier. So, and now I would like to show you some demo. So I have two projects here. First one is ECMAScript 2015 features, ES6 features. Basically, the project consists of Jasmine tests which cover all new functionality. And you see I have tests for class declaration, for let variables, for arrow functions, and you see that everything is passed correctly. So for now, I have a test script which will run all these Jasmine tests. For now, you can run it via terminal, but we are planning to add support of scripts, of package.json scripts. So if I run now npm test, you will see that all tests for ECMAScript 2015 passed. And also, you will see now that actually all JavaScript is parsed correctly. So you see that class declaration. And if I want to use content assist, it will also work. So I have burger cook and make burger functionality. So now it's all works. So lately, earlier you would have a bunch of errors while using old parser. Also, there is a Jsdt demo application, which is more interesting. Actually, it's an app that consists of client and server part, and the client app is a single-page AngularJS application that will be run with gulp. So you see that here I have some basic Angular controllers, some custom directive, and some factory for making REST calls. So first thing I need to do is to install all the dependencies from my package.json and bower.json files. So you can see that their bower.json is opened in JSON editor. So you see that I have an outline support, and I can see all the dependencies here. So in order to install all the dependencies, I need just to right-click on a bower.json file, run as, and execute bower install. So actually, it will install all the dependencies into libs folder because I overwrite their default bower components folder in my bower.c file, which is actually also opened in JSON editor, and there is a content assist for this file. Basically, JSON editor provides file-specific content assist. So for bower.rc, I will have HTTP proxy and some other things available. So, and now I need to install all the dependencies from package.json file. It's basically a gulp and gulp connect plugin. I should just do the same thing, run as npm install. And this will install all the dependencies into Node models folder. So actually, I have already downloaded this, so it just checks that all are on its place. And now it's time to open a gulp file.js. And here you see that I have several tasks defined. They're available in Project Explorer view. So I have some basic tasks like log task, which basically prints hello Neon to the console. So in order to execute it, I should just right-click on the task, run as, gulp task, and I'll see it here. So I can change the name of their task on the fly. So if I save it, edit and save it, you will see that reflected in Project Explorer also. And for now, in order to run this application, I have a default task which performs connect and watch together. And what it actually does, So Connect plugin supports live reload, and live reload will be performed one of their files specified in their pass src property will be changed. So once the file will be changed, the live reload will be performed. So in order to run the default task, I should right-click on the gulp file just directly, run as gulp task. So now you see that server started on localhost 2772. I can open it. So you see it's a simple login form here. So for now, if I would like to change something, for instance, change background color to black, and save it, you'll see all the changes reflected in my browser. So now it's time to look at the server pod, and server pod is a Node.js application which uses Express server, and it has some logic behind for handling authorization and for handling HTTP requests there. So first thing I need is also to install all the dependencies from package.json. It's Express and some other libraries. I do it the very same thing, npm install, and this will install all the dependencies into Node modules. So now in order to run the server pod, so for now if I try to submit, I will get their pop-up which just said that something went wrong. It's because of the fact that server pod is down now and I need to run it. So in order to run it, just right-click on the server.js file, run as Node.js application. So it will run the app on port 3000. So now I can log in and browse my app. So it has some sample directive which prints everything that is input field. It has sample filter that transform Boolean values to UTF-8 chars like false or true. And it has sample factories that makes a REST API call. So now I want to show you how to debug the Node.js application. So first of all, I will terminate it and log out. We'll see that the server pod is down. And I should simply right-click on the server.js file, debug as Node.js application. I will be switched to debug perspective now. And here you see that now I'm in the debug mode. And here in the variables tab, I can see all my variables. Also, hoovering is also supported. So I can see it also here. Also, hot swap and live edit is supported. So if I would like to change, so for now it prints hello from server. If I would like to print the port, I can simply save the file. Then I need to go right-click on the file, VA debugging, push those changes to VM. We would like to improve this in Neon 1, so it will be pushed to VM automatically. No need to right-clicking, but for now it works like this. And I will start from scratch. And now you'll see that 3000 is printed in the console. I have some breakpoints here also, but I would probably skip it. I leave only the one on the product.js file. So if I now log in and go to their sample factory, which makes a get HTTP request, you'll see that I have all products defined in my function here. So it will return JS donut and cookie to their client. So you see it here. And if I would like to change it, for instance, if I make their call one more time, and let's say I would like to change cheese to ice cream and save it, okay, debugging, push those changes to VM. I will start not from the beginning of their the whole application start, but from the beginning of this function. So it supports scopes. And now the ice cream will be returned here. Also, one thing was mentioning that now there is a JavaScript runtime support. So I have a global Node.js, which was detected by their tools on the start, but I can use my custom Node.js binaries also. So now I will pass the word to Gorkem, and he will tell a little bit about Neon 1 and beyond, so what we are going to implement next.
Thank you, Ilya. The first thing that we want to change on Neon 1 is to improve our parser a bit more. The change to Esprima parser had been quite beneficial, but one thing that we have noticed is there are a few problems that around using the Esprima parser. The first one is Esprima parser. The way we run Esprima parser is we run it on Nashorn, and that causes the Esprima parser, at least on the initial runs, to be slower than we would like it to be until the JIT compiler kicks in and optimizes it. And the second problem we are seeing is the tolerant parsing. Although implemented to a level as part of Esprima, it's not up to the level where an IDE needs it. So we were looking for alternates to Esprima, and we came across the Clojure compiler. The plan right now is to replace the Esprima parser on Neon 1 with Clojure compiler, which provides better tolerant parsing, and it's implemented in Java, so we won't have to deal with Nashorn and also convert between JavaScript and Java worlds. Our model conversion will not be crossing boundaries between JavaScript and Java. And another benefit of having Clojure compiler is because of the way the mission of Clojure compiler is different from Esprima. Esprima is a pure JavaScript parser, whereas Clojure compiler also tries to optimize and also lint the JavaScript files. Therefore, we will be getting more benefits, more better error reporting as part of Clojure compiler, and this is something that we would like to finish up and release on Neon 1. And for going further after Neon, one thing that as we were progressing with our parser, what we have been doing, what we have been noticing is there are all these language services that are out there that already have resolved some of the problems that we are facing. For example, the hover supports code and inference engines and so on and so forth are already taken care of in projects like TypeScript compiler or Turn.js and so on and so forth. So and having a good parser is basically the first step on implementing those that sort of functionality. But the problem with that is you basically need to take over after the parser and implement that functionality, and that requires a lot of work and a lot of testing. And there are really good alternates out there that are supported by the communities that actually create those services. For example, in the case of TypeScript language services, TypeScript language services is actually created by the team that implements the TypeScript compiler. So they probably know better, know much better, know TypeScript much better than our team. So on the future, what we want to do is to use a language server, and for that we are planning to use the server language protocol that is supported by Visual Studio Code. And since we have been talking about this with other partners, including Microsoft, they are very interested to create a common server language protocol which would benefit all these tools. Like Eclipse J is also interested. We are interested on the JSDT side and on different projects as well. So the idea would be that there would be a single server language server protocol where an editor would just ask the questions of, hey, give me the completion proposals on this location, on this file, and then you would get the results as completion proposals. So the editor in this case would be agnostic of the language that it is executing. And this is basically the case with, for example, in tools like Visual Studio Code and Emacs and Vim, where they do not have an intimate knowledge of that language in the editor itself, but rather on an outside service. So that's basically the plan for going forward. There is a lot of work going around in this area. There is also a talk about creating a generic code editor that, if that's done successfully, that could replace JSDT editor at one point. But our plan right now is to bring in the language service, probably the one that is used by Visual Studio Code, which is based on TypeScript services, so that JSDT can start using that for content assist, code completion, and even validation.
Yeah, and one more thing that we're going to add is JavaScript front-end debugging, which is actually possible also due to the Chrome DevTools for Java project. And for now, it's only supported, debugging is only supported for Node.js, but we would also like to add it for front-end debugging and planning to do this for Neon 1.
Yeah, I mean, one common theme that you may have noticed is there's a lot of, as part of Neon, we were able to bring a lot of infrastructure into JSDT, but turning that infrastructure into features takes a bit more time. For example, we do have the possibility of having automated live reload during debugging, automated live hot swap during debugging, but we just ran out of time for Neon to implement that. And when JavaScript front-end debugging, we do have the infrastructure for doing that, We just ran out of time to turn that into a feature where it's easy to use. And that's where actually contributors could help. It's basically a matter of time, where matter of people contributing to finish up with these sort of features that just needs that little bit of push so that it is usable and accessible.
Yeah. So, guys, it's time for questions.
So we have about 5 more minutes in case we do have any questions. If there are any coming in on YouTube, on Twitter, or you can submit the questions on the Google Hangouts. We're happy to answer those. I don't see anything in our queue. So was there anything else that you guys wanted to address before we wrap up?
Well, actually, just we wanted to say thank you to all the contributors from IBM, Red Hat, and other guys. And we do hope that for Oxygen we will have a lot more, and we are going to make JavaScript in Eclipse better.
Great, perfect.
So I will stop sharing probably because I have no slides, and if there are any questions, we could answer it.
Sure. And I'll just add while we wait to see if there are any last few questions. This is these are the first 2 webinars. We did one yesterday, this one today. We have 5 remaining webinars. These are being used to help promote Eclipse Neon and what's new within Eclipse Neon, which comes June 22nd. So if you haven't registered for those, please do. There's a lot of interesting information being exchanged. It is an opportunity to talk to the people in the community and find out how you can get involved as well. I would like to thank Ilya and Gorkem for taking the time to do this presentation. It is no small undertaking, so thank you both for being here with us today. And I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so if there's anything else, otherwise I think we'll sign off. And if we do receive questions, Twitter's available, like I said, YouTube, you can email marketing@eclipse.org, and we'll be sure that your questions do get answered. Perfect. Okay, so I think we'll be signing off then. All right, thank you, Gorkem. Thank you, Ilya.
Okay, thank you, Kat. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
And thanks to everyone who tuned in. Take care.